Hello and welcome back to In Stitches with Jackie. Just wanted to show a few of the additional blocks that I have stitched out and am currently stitching with goals to finish this Hopping Down the Bunny Trail by Easter. All right, I'm going to take and get this cut away and put this back on the embroidery arm. Okay, now it's just going to do the placement line. I'm still going to keep this green in here. Okay, I'm going to put my background fabric. I do have this treat it with my SF101 on the background, and this is always cut bigger. Okay, if we're going to remember, it's showing that placement line, and I'm going to skip that because I don't need that placement line. Oh, I'm going to skip that too because that would be the tack down line. Okay, so now it's going to start the leaves, see? So you have to skip those two. I don't have the instructions in front of me, but you're actually skipping those two steps because of the plain fact that I did the background quilting. If I did not do the background quilting, then I would have done the placement line and I would have done the tack down line. So now I am going to change my thread to the really pretty, I think it's like a lime, like a lighter colored. This is the pistachio. I'm going to change the thread to that, do the placement lines, and get that going. All right, I am going to stitch the placement lines for the top of the carrot house leaves, which is going to be this really cute green. Yeah, I did that a little, that's a little light, but I'm going to make sure I got that there. So the next color is going to be, it's going to be the carrot, what are they calling it? The carrot house placement, and I am going to use the peaches and cream. Okay, so you can see I was using the peaches and cream from Hemmingsworth, which is my most recent, most favorite embroidery thread. Now I'm using, going to tack down the carrot house fabric, the orange fabric there. It's going to go around twice. And then I am going to stitch the window and put the felt in place and tack down the felt, because that's later going to be finished with a decorative satin stitch around the window. I'm going to go and trim both of these and move on to the next thing, which is, I think, the placement line for the door. I wanted to show a little reminder of when you're trimming your applique pieces. You want to get it as close to this stitch line as possible, but you don't want to cut the stitches. Now, if you do, in this sense, it's not the end of the world because it is a double tack down. But what helps get it closer is I always rest. I have a flat surface here. Always do this on a flat surface. I'm resting my other fingers here, and I'm kind of pulling this a bit, and by pulling it, it helps me to get as close as possible. But with that said, you don't want to, you don't want to, that's why the whole thing is to, I have my other fingers resting on here. Now I'm going around this bin here, but you really want it nice and clean like that, because if it's not, when it goes to do the satin stitch, you're going to see, if you leave a bit of that off, you're going to see that it's going to get caught up in the satin stitch and it's not going to look good. If it's a decorative stitch, which this one, I'm not sure if this is, I think this is a satin stitch, but again, just kind of putting a little bit of pressure on it does help to get as close as possible to that line. And you can see that that is really nice and close. This I'm not as worried about. There's going to be a whole window pane stitched around that. All right. Okay, next I'm going to do the placement line for the door. And I'm going to keep the same color, but I'm going to change it to brown once I go to tack this down, because the door is brown. And actually it doesn't really matter. Stitch the small carrot, let me see. Stitch the door tack down line, trim the fabric close to the stitch line. So I am going to leave the same color in again, trying to like not have to change the thread, a million times here, because there's going to be a satin stitch around this. And so it's going to be in brown. It's going to cover this light, peach color. So I'm not as concerned about it. I'm going to trim this away, and then the next tack down is going to be for one of the carrot houses. So it's going to be for the small carrot house, which is going to be on that side. So let me get this trimmed away. Okay, the next is another tack down line, and this is the tack down line. I trim that close to there, stitch the small carrot placement line, and then I'm going to take the fabric from this one and to confirm which one this is. It is this orange one, so I guess it wouldn't really matter which one I put down. Now this is the one that I didn't have the SF101 all the way on there, but that's no problem, because I'm just going to make sure that this tack down is just mainly going to cover the area that I have the SF101 on. Yeah, so it's going to be doing the decorative stitching on the actual carrot. So I have to just decide what color I want that to be. And it's probably going to be this beige color because everything else would be too dark. So let me just get this trimmed away and we'll go on. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was the same color to do the decorative outline. And it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and it is now going to do this, just the detail on the carrot. Okay, now it's going to be the placement line for the leaves, and I'm not going to change the color. I'll change it when I go to tack my green fabric down. Try to stop. I mean, I could have changed this one, but just decided again to leave this one. Could have put it to the green or not, but I'm going to change it to the green now. Okay, I changed out my thread and now going to do my tack down for my leaves. Cut away my extra fabric. I'll be right back. Okay, now it's going to do the decorative stitch. now it's going to do the placement line for the, what are they calling this? Is this a carrot or a radish or, let's see. This is the radish placement line. So I'm going to leave in the green. And then I will change my color once I get that on there. Okay, let me change my thread color. Looks like it's going to be the carnation. It's like this really, almost like a reddish pink color for the radish. Okay, getting ready to stitch down the radish. Okay, I'm going to trim that away. So I thought I was going to trim that away, but it looks like the next thing it's going to do is the window pane. So anytime that you can kind of map things out and, you know, why take it off now? I can wait until this window pane is going to stitch. It's not going to affect this at all. If it goes to go down here next, I'm still going to be okay. So going to start the window pane. To do the satin stitch for the carrot, so I'm going to get that thread loaded in there. Okay, I loaded in my orange and going to do that. I can still wait to trim that piece because it looks like it is going to stitch the body of the little ladybug. Okay, it's going to stitch the body for the ladybug. more of a pink red. So I am going to change that color. And of course, I'm going to trim away all this extra fabric. Okay, I'm going to put in the black and get this stitched up. And then I am going to stitch the flower on the door because I decided not to put any buttons on this. You know what? I forgot there is one more section that's going to stitch the leaves on the carrot. So let me get that loaded. Okay, here we go. Okay, as I had said before, there are really really cute buttons. Did I put them in here? Yeah. And this would be the button that would go on the door right there. But I'm not going to do that because I'm making this for grandchildren, and it will be out on the couch, and if they, mess around with it, I just feel better stitching the flower on the door. And I love the fact that Kimberbell gives you that option. So they give you the option of stitching it on it or put the button. And although I think the buttons are beautiful, I'm staying with the safety of small buttons, and I am going to stitch this. So let me get my white put in. Okay, I loaded some white, and it's going to stitch the flower. So when you're putting this block together, it says to move it down to the stitch line, which I did. I moved it down to the stitch line because this is the 1/4 inch allowance for when you're sewing your borders and stuff on here. When you look, it's putting it right up against, it looks like it's telling you to cut it right there. Now I'm going to stitch this this line just to see. I'm going to be a little interesting to see where it stitches, because this is like the tack down line. It says trim. Oh. The block is now complete and came out beautiful, and I am a little confused about this because again, it's showing this. Let me read this here. It says when you get to the bottom, stitch the trimming guide and tick mark shown in blue. If using traditional quilting, remove the tack down line. So it says if using traditional quilting to remove it, and I didn't. I used the block by block and stitch the trimming guide. So it looks like it wants you to trim it all the way right there. Cut it. Stitch the trimming guide and tick mark. So right here, it's saying that you should trim the very bottom to this part right here. And I'm gonna double check that, but that's exactly what the directions say. So if I was to just do my 1/4 inch, this would probably be right in my seam. So it is gonna be sewn a little above this. So when I sew my 1/4 inch, it's gonna sew a little above that, which is what it's calling for. All right, and then, when it's in the thing, it's going to have this grass put on top of it, the glitter grass. All right, I'm going to take this over to the table. Okay, so here is the block. It's all stitched up. It's very pretty. I just cut away my stabilizer, and I'm going to just kind of investigate this so I'm giving the right information. But from what I'm thinking, I mean, I just don't see how this is going to be in the, because that's a cutting line. So I'm going to investigate that a little bit and make sure I'm giving the right information as to where this gets cut. But when you looked at that diagram with the orange pop rulers, which again, I don't use orange pop rulers, it shows that it's lining it all the way up. It says the bottom of the carrot house 1/8 of an inch above the inner bottom edge. So it's basically telling you to put the orange pop ruler right there, because that's 1/8 of an inch for sure. So I'm gonna look this I'm gonna investigate this a bit more, and I will make sure. But I am thinking that that right there is a cutting line, and some of this is going to be in your seam allowance. Hello, In Stitches with Jackie here. I am adding this on to the video that I worked on the projects that I was working on Sunday, and decided to, I'm not going to show the full stitch out of this one, but I am now working on the blossoms and beehive block, and this one doesn't look too bad. Not a whole lot of fabric or anything. It was another one that had a special alignment, and I think I did my alignments probably a little off, but I did them consistently a little off as far as my lineup on the bottom, so I should be good. The first thing here is going to stitch out the tree. Just wanted to show on this one, stitching on some cork. This is going to be raw edge. I am shocked though that it's only doing one, it's doing a single stitch and not the normal double stitch. Now I don't know if that's because it's cork, but that was a little strange to me. So now I have to go in and be very careful trimming this because it's only got the one stitch. I almost would like to repeat it because I feel like it needs more. It's going to be raw edge, and I just feel like just one stitch on there really isn't enough. So I am going to repeat that. I'm going to have it stitch again, and it's just my thoughts that I would prefer a double tack down. Now, I don't know if they didn't do it because they were afraid that, oh, okay, maybe it is too much on the cork. Let's see. I don't think so, but it looks like maybe you get a cleaner look with just the one, because you know Kimberbell does test everything, and it looks like if you do it twice, it may it just doesn't look as clean. So this one where I went, looks like the stitches are yeah. So I agree. I understand why they did it now. So before I forget, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go do that. And then it will go to the next stitch. But in the meantime, I am going to carefully trim away all this extra cork. There you go. Got that really, really cute. Very easy to cut. It's a very soft cork, so it was not difficult. Tried to be really careful when you're cutting in between these areas not to cut the stitches. And I think it came out really nice, and I'm just moving on. Okay, another part I wanted to share is now it's going to stitch the flowers, which the flowers are going to be fringe flowers. That's the word I couldn't remember earlier, fringe flowers. So I already loaded the top part with this. It's kind of a pinkish red. It's called carnation. But what I have to do is I have to take my hoop out, and I am going to change out my bobbin thread from regular bobbin thread to my Vanish. And I keep it in a separate little pouch like this so that this no way gets mixed up with my regular bobbins, because you wouldn't want that. And I also put a little black mark on there. Just lets me know that, yes, this is a special bobbin. Now the big thing, again, wonderful having the instructions in front of you, because it has a nice little caution. It has a little change up here, right there, that says change the bobbin thread to water soluble, and then stitch the fringe flowers. I mean, Kimberbell will do everything in their instructions. They are very detailed. Now, do I still make mistakes? Yes, but it's usually because I don't look at the instructions, because I'm like, oh yeah, I did that before, I know what I'm doing. So the biggest thing is, after all of these stitch, and I believe it's going to be so this is going to be stitch 12, 13. So after 12, it says change the bobbin thread back to the neutral color. So it's only going to do this one stitch. This is a 5-minute long stitch. And then I will be changing the bobbin thread back. So there you go. That's just one of the little extra things. I am also stitching the bumblebee because, as stated, I am not going to put any buttons on this. I could save them for another project. And it's going to do these really like loose satin stitch, so that when that bobbin thread is dissolved, all of those will just kind of fringe out. It actually is really cool the way that is. So let me just show a couple of these being stitched out. See how that's nice long satin stitches, so that when the bobbin thread is dissolved, they'll all just kind of fringe up. I'll just stitch one more flower with you, and then I think this is going to be it. I think there's just going to be a few more details, and then this is going to be done. But super cool the way that when I think about the things that we used to embroider many years ago, you know, didn't have any of this stuff. I mean, they were just plain, you know, embroidery thread stitched. There wasn't a lot of applique like this. There wasn't a lot of cool techniques like there is now. So embroidery has come a long way. There's also, back in the day, we used to use like one stabilizer, right? We used to wear a tearaway stabilizer. It was either a thin one or a thick one. You didn't have all this other stuff, but yeah. All right, this block is finished. Beautiful. You know, you can't really, and I haven't pressed this or anything yet, but you can't really appreciate how cute these blocks are until you actually stitch them out. Again, I'm not going with a button. I am stitching the, instead of going with the button, the B button, I just stitched out the B, which, as I stated before, I love that Kimberbell actually thinks enough to give you that option. So now the water-soluble thread went on the back of these, and I just took, there's a lot, this block in particular is like a really messy block, just because with all the flowers, you have all the stops and starts, so not surprising. I will say that after sewing on my Bernina for a couple days, and now yesterday and today I stitched on, well, yesterday I did some stitching on the Bernina, but today I just did this block. You know, I probably didn't want to cut that. But you could see how this starts to loosen up. And you don't have to manipulate it that much, actually. You could see how, you know, the bobbin thread, and you don't want to like really mess with it too much. I probably should use, I know what I'm going to use besides my, probably not smart to be using my scissors because obviously that could cut things. And I never really try to rush this. You could see where some of these really, and that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to do exactly what these things are doing. This part right here, I probably didn't get, right there, I probably didn't get enough water on that. But this is how these kind of look. I think I cut a few strands at the bottom though. So, you know, that one looks a little, but that's what they're going to look like. It's going to be real fringy. This one, I think I might have accidentally cut a few of them, and that's okay. You can go with your scissors and you can clean that up. That's not a big deal. Like I can go with my scissors and clean these pieces here that are really long, or I can just leave them. Same thing with this here. You don't really want to manipulate it too much, just enough to, and that will continue to like loosen up. The ball part of this actually is a nice, because it doesn't have anything sharp. It's just enough to kind of pull these threads up. And what I'll do is tomorrow I'll wet it a little bit more, but you can see how cute that is. And if you feel like it looks a little too scraggly for you, then you can always trim some of it off. But I kind of like, whoops, kind of like it like that. That middle part, that stitch, that's what's holding all these together. And the reason it looks kind of a little odd is because not all of them have loosened up yet. So once they've all loosened up, and then you can kind of, and this one's the same way. It's really neat. You could take this end of this. That works really well on the smaller one. Taking this end here, this is perfect. There. And so you can always take, with little ones that kind of come up, you can always take and trim a little bit of that off. It's not a big deal. And again, you don't want to over manipulate it because it can, you don't want to over stress the threads. On this one here, I'm going to go a little bit more with this one. And this one here, this piece kind of, like this one kind of lifted all the way out. And again, I could take and I can trim that off, but it's not anything that, I don't think I did this one. But that's just to show how that looks. Kind of just gives it a nice fringy look. You don't want to overwork it, you know, especially these little ones. This tool is actually really good. But you could see how, you know, with some of them, the threads might not be there. The real small ones probably not gonna have, that one might not even be anything, but there you go. Very cute, adorable block as usual. Again, with this one, it's kind of bothering me a little bit. Once I get all of these out, because those are, look like they just, I think they lifted kind of all the way out. I'm just gonna trim them a little bit. You want to watch so you don't trim it too much, so that you have it there, but these are not meant to look perfect. There, that did help the look of that one. All right, so let's review the blocks I have done. I will probably, this one still has to be cut. So this is the one I did tonight, which is the Blossoms and Beehive. And then I stitched this one yesterday, Hopping Down the Bunny Trail. I did use a 60 weight thread for this, which is a finer thread. And I just think it does an awesome job with doing the lettering. And you've got your little, I did put the stabilizer over this, the clear wash away stabilizer. I just felt that it made a difference. Kimberbell did not say you had to do that, but I did do that. And then, of course, the first block that I stitched was the boot, which is my favorite block. Even with as cute as the other blocks, I just love this block. I can't say enough. I really want to stitch this block again. And then I got the carrot house. So I stitched the carrot house and Hopping Down the Bunny Trail yesterday. I did this to one day through the week, and I did stitch this one on my Bernina. And you can see the stitch quality is there. It's beautiful, beautiful satin stitch. But after stitching my bee blocks from my wallflower mystery quilt, I think that I'm going to hang it up a little bit for the Bernina. I will keep saying that the quality of the stitch out is good. It's just that between all the rethreading and not always cutting the threads, it just causes more frustration than needed. Probably stitching a bigger thing would be, you know, something that stitches more often. With the Bernina, when you're stitching these smaller sections, I don't even want to get into it. The thread just breaks, and it just, I don't know, it just doesn't behave. So these are my 2 bee blocks that I did. And this is for the mystery, the digital dealer mystery wallflower. This is the April block. Each block you stitch 2 of them. I did not stitch January, February, or March blocks. So I am going to be working on those intermittently. I want to get Hopping Down the Bunny Trail done, obviously, for Easter. It's going to be gifted. And so I have 2 more blocks to do, and then the borders, and then stitching it together. So, and then there's going to be a glitter grass that goes along the bottom. All right, so I'm going to get those last 2 blocks done, and then I'll probably do a finishing video. I'm not going to show the stitch out of the other blocks. They're pretty much the same as these. And there's another block similar to this, and then there's going to be the mushroom house. The only difference is I may show that because it has a 3D door. But I will definitely do the finishing, sewing all the blocks together in the borders, and I will show stitching the borders. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and please give some thumbs up, some likes, and please consider subscribing.